My name is Olivia Patterson. I'm 31 years old. If you'd asked me a year ago to describe myself, I would have said steady, reliable, the kind of person people lean on. I'd built a career in logistics for a medical supply company. I paid my bills on time, kept my apartment tidy, and I thought I had a good life with my boyfriend Victor. We'd been together for 4 years, living together for 2. I remember how proud I felt when Victor finally agreed to start therapy. He had this boss who made every day a nightmare, and I encouraged him to talk to someone professional. At first, it felt like a victory. He'd come home from sessions looking lighter, talking about self-care and healthy boundaries. I thought, good, he's finally learning to take care of himself. But by month 3, something shifted. Every insight from therapy wasn't about him, it was about me. Dr. Whitmore says when you ask where I'm going, it shows controlling behavior. My therapist thinks your need for a clean kitchen is actually a power dynamic issue. Suddenly, I wasn't Olivia, his supportive partner. I was the source of his dysfunction, a living, breathing case study for his therapy journal. I remember standing in our kitchen one evening, 3-day-old dishes stacked in the sink. I asked carefully, "Can we wash these tonight?" His answer wasn't about the plates. It was about how my request revealed my toxic need for control. That's when I started walking on eggshells. I'd stop myself 3 times before speaking. I quit mentioning Bill's chores, anything that could be twisted. I even started spending more time at my best friend Thea's place just to breathe. Then came the Tuesday I'll never forget. I'd just finished a long shift at work and came home exhausted. Victor was sitting on the couch with his therapy journal balanced on his knees. His expression looked rehearsed, like he was about to deliver a monologue. "Olivia," he said slowly, "I need to share something from today's session. We've been doing deep work on my anxiety, and we've identified the source." He paused, waiting for the drama to land. "It's you." For a second, the words didn't register. I just blinked at him. Me. 4 years of supporting him through career disasters, through his mother's constant interference, through late nights of self-doubt. And I was the problem. I felt something shift inside me. A tiny click, like a lock turning. Instead of crying or yelling, I simply nodded. "I see." His brows drew together, confusion flickering. He expected denial, protest, maybe begging. But I stood, walked into our bedroom, and pulled out my duffel bag. "What are you doing?" His voice cracked, panic creeping in. "Solving your problem," I said, folding shirts neatly. "If I'm the source of your anxiety, then removing me is the solution." "Olivia, that's not Dr. Whitmore says we need to work through this together. You can't just leave." "Oh, I can. And I am." I grabbed my laptop chargers, a few important documents. The apartment was in his name anyway. Easy exit. He followed me into the doorway, clutching his journal like a shield. This is exactly the kind of dramatic reaction she warned me about. You're proving her point. Maybe I said zipping my bag. Or maybe I'm just tired of being someone's therapeutic punching bag. I left a note on the counter. Problem solved. You're welcome. And then I walked out. No yelling, no tears. Just silence. Thea didn't ask questions when I showed up at her place with my bag. She handed me a blanket, pointed to her spare room, and said, "Sleep. That's what real friends do." For the first time in months, I closed my eyes without the weight of someone else's accusations pressing on my chest. But peace didn't last long. 19 hours later, my phone lit up. Dozens of missed calls. A flood of texts from Victor, angry, pleading, contradictory. I stared at the screen in the dark, my heart pounding. And I realized this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. The first messages from Victor came in waves, like he couldn't decide which role to play. Angry boyfriend, abandoned victim, or manipulator. Testing what strings still worked on me. At 7 p.m., my screen lit up. "This is so immature. You're proving Dr. Whitmore right. She said you'd run when things got hard." By 9 p.m., the tone softened. "Hey, can we talk?" Maybe I miscommunicated what my therapist said. "Please come home." By midnight, it was full-blown pleading. "Olivia, this is unfair. We need to discuss this like adults." I set my phone down, trying not to shake. But by 6 a.m., it buzzed nonstop. 15 missed calls, frantic texts. "The electricity bill is due. I don't know the password. Internet's down. Where's the router? Insurance cards, I can't find them." I almost laughed through my exhaustion. Victor had never paid a single bill. Not once. That was me, Olivia Patterson, the living password manager, the human filing cabinet. I had created spreadsheets, color-coded binders, even sat beside him to explain logins. Every time he'd wave me off. "You're just better at this stuff, babe." Now suddenly I wasn't just his anxiety source. I was also the keeper of his survival. I scrolled further down his messages. Around noon, the guilt hooks started. How am I supposed to afford this place on my own? Rent's due next week. I can't do this without you. That one stung just for a second, because I remembered 3 months ago when I'd suggested we move somewhere cheaper. Back then, I'd been paying 70% of the rent. My salary carried us, while his wellness coaching barely covered gas. His response had been sharp. Dismissive, Dr. Whitmore says financial anxiety is often about control issues. Maybe you should ask yourself why you're so threatened by our lifestyle. Our lifestyle, the one I paid for. Now he was panicking over the same rent he once lorded over me. I dropped the phone on the bed. The irony burned, but it didn't erase the ache in my chest. 4 years of caring, planning, loving, and this was how quickly the script flipped. Later that afternoon, the performance expanded to social media. Victor's Instagram story, him and his friend Janelle at an overpriced smoothie bar. The caption, "Self-care isn't selfish." I stared at it incredulous. 20 minutes earlier, he was begging for money in my inbox. Now he was posing with acai bowls, hashtagging healing energy. By Friday, things escalated further. A voicemail from his mother, Patricia. Her voice had that clipped, practiced edge like she was reciting from a script of martyrdom. Olivia. This isn't how adults behave. Victor is devastated. He told me you walked out without warning, left him destitute. I had to send him grocery money. Grocery money. After everything he's done for you, you abandon him like this. Call him immediately. I nearly dropped the phone. Destitute grocery money. When I left, the fridge had been stocked. Victor even had $400 tucked away in his jewelry box for emergencies. But sure, he needed Mommy's help 2 days later. That night, Thea poured me a glass of wine and said, "You know what this is, right? It's control. He's panicking because he can't dictate the story anymore." Her words settled deep. She was right. He didn't want me back out of love. He wanted me back to keep his world running. Still, I couldn't shake the heaviness. My phone kept buzzing, his messages blurring together, rage, bargaining, guilt-tripping. I stared at the pile of clothes in Thea's guest room, my half-packed life, shoved into corners, and felt torn between relief and a creeping dread. Because deep down, I knew Saturday, when I went back for the rest of my things, Victor wouldn't just hand me my boxes and wish me well. Something darker was waiting. Saturday arrived like a storm cloud I couldn't outrun. All week, I'd replayed scenarios in my head. Victor begging, Victor raging, Victor pretending nothing had happened, but the truth still blindsided me. When Thea pulled her old pickup into the lot outside Victor's building, I saw the blinds in our old living room window shift. He was waiting. I texted him as planned, "I'll be there at 2, Haro. Please be out." His reply came instantly, "I'll be here. We need to talk." I carried a pit in my stomach all the way up the stairs. The door opened before I even knocked. Victor stood there, dressed in the navy shirt I once told him brought out his eyes. The apartment smelled faintly of vanilla candles. On the table, our old anniversary photo rested against a wine glass. Music hummed softly from his speaker our song. My breath hitched. He had staged the apartment like a memory. "Olivia." His smile wobbled, practiced. "Can we please just talk?" I stepped inside, ignoring the candles. "I'm here for my things." His jaw tightened, but he followed me as I moved from room to room. Every item I touched, my books, my blender, even my slippers, he countered with pleas. "You're overreacting. We've been through worse. I'll tell Dr. Whitmore she was wrong." I folded sweaters into a box, refusing to look at him. Thea hovered near the door, deliberately silent, her presence grounding me. Finally, Victor's patience snapped. His voice rose sharp. "You can't just walk away like this. What about the bills? What about my anxiety?" I turned my own anger cutting through the air. "Your anxiety is your responsibility, Victor. And the bills, they're all in your name, your apartment, your bills." For the first time he faltered. His hands flexed, empty of his journal now. "You know I can't afford this place alone." I should have felt pity. Instead, I felt clarity. "Then maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I was the source of all your problems." The room thickened with silence. His tears dried midstream. When he looked at me again, the softness was gone, replaced by something colder, calculating. "You're really going to throw away 4 years over one comment?" One comment, I let out a humorless laugh. "Victor, for 5 months, I've been your villain of the week. Every dinner, every bill, every dish in the sink turned into a pathology. I've been walking on eggshells while you played patient and jury. This isn't one comment. This is who you've become." He stared at me, breathing hard. For a moment, I thought he'd lunge. Instead, he grabbed my wrist as I reached for another box. His grip was firm, too firm. Olivia, don't do this, he whispered, but his eyes burned. Thea moved for Patterson instantly. Let her go. He did too quickly, like he hadn't realized how tight he'd been holding on. His mask slipped, just for a second, and I saw it not despair, but strategy. He wasn't broken-hearted. He was cornered. I lifted the box, my pulse pounding. I'm done, Victor. Thea and I carried the last load down the stairs. I didn't look back until we reached the truck. He was standing in the doorway, no longer crying, no longer pleading, just watching us with that calculating stare. And I knew this wasn't the end. It was only a new beginning. For a few days, the text slowed down. I thought maybe, just maybe, Victor had accepted the reality. But then Monday came and my phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. It was my boss. His tone was hesitant. Olivia, I just got a strange call from HR. Your boyfriend Victor Wright contacted them. He said you were having some kind of breakdown, that you'd abandoned your home, and he was worried about your mental health. My stomach dropped. He had called my job. I explained the situation in clipped, humiliated sentences. My boss listened, then sighed. Look, I know your work ethic. I trust you. Just document everything. If he tries anything else, we'll need it on record. When I hung up, my hands shook. It wasn't just texts anymore. Victor was reaching into every corner of my life, trying to brand me unstable. And then, as if on cue, he unleashed the performance online. On Facebook, Victor posted a long, winding rant. After 4 years, she abandoned me without warning, left me unable to pay rent or buy food. This is what emotional manipulation looks like. He didn't tag me directly, but he didn't have to. Half our mutual friends could connect the dots. The comments flooded in. Generic sympathy. Stay strong, sending love. But buried in the thread was one that made my chest ache. Didn't you tell us last month that your therapist said Olivia was toxic and you needed to set boundaries? It was from Brad, a guy we'd had dinner with twice. Within an hour, Victor deleted it. By midweek, the escalation had turned surreal. An email popped up from Patricia. Subject line, urgent family responsibility. Olivia, I'm deeply disappointed. Victor is struggling because of your rash decision. He can't sleep, can't eat. I had to cover his groceries again. A good partner doesn't just walk away. You should come by and talk this through as a family. I almost laughed out loud. As a family, Patricia had never once treated me like family. But now suddenly I was supposed to swoop back in as caretaker. The next day she raised the stakes. Patricia showed up at my office. Security called me down to the lobby. There she stood, designer purse clutched to her chest, eyes flashing with indignation. Olivia, this has gone far enough. Victor is devastated. You've traumatized him. Traumatized. My voice cracked, incredulous. He told me I was the source of his anxiety. I left so he could heal. How is that traumatizing? You know he didn't mean it like that, Dr. Whitmore said. Patricia, I cut in, my voice trembling but firm. Ask yourself why your 30-year-old son needs his mother to fight his battles at my workplace. She stiffened, glancing at the security guard hovering nearby. Her voice dropped to a hiss. This isn't over. My son deserves better. You're right, I whispered back. He does, and so do I. She stormed out, leaving a trail of perfume and whispers among my coworkers. That night, the real fallout began. My phone pinged with unknown numbers, message after message. Heartless. She's falling apart. Real women don't abandon their men. Hope you're happy destroying him. It was a swarm smear campaign. But tucked between the venom, I found messages from unexpected places. One from Victor's cousin. Don't blame you. He's been like this since we were kids. Nothing is ever his fault. Another from a former coworker of his. He did the same thing when he quit. Said everyone else was toxic. Reading those, I felt something loosen inside me. It wasn't just me, it was a pattern. But instead of relief, a chill ran through me. Because if Victor had always been like this, I had no idea how far he'd go next. By Thursday, I thought I'd seen every trick Victor could pull, but then my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Hello, Ms. Patterson, this is Dr. Whitmore. For a second, my throat closed. His therapist. She continued, polite but firm. Victor has expressed concern about your recent behavior. While I can't disclose his treatment details, I want to encourage you to seek support. Abandoning a partner, suddenly, can be a sign of deeper issues. I can provide referrals. I didn't let her finish. My pulse pounded in my ears. A therapist contacting me directly. On his behalf. It felt wrong. No, it was wrong. I hung up without a word, hands shaking. Immediately, I screenshotted the call log, saved her voicemail, and sent it to my friend Charlotte, an actual lawyer. Her reply came in seconds. This is wildly unethical. Save everything. Do not respond. For the first time, fear eclipsed anger. This wasn't just Victor's game anymore. His therapist had joined the battlefield. And then came Patricia's email. The subject line alone made my stomach knot: financial settlement proposal. I clicked and there it was. A neat list, itemized like a grocery bill. 3 months rent to give Victor time to adjust $5,700. Emotional distress, compensation, $3,000. Therapy costs since he'd need a new provider, $2,000. Lifestyle adjustment support, $5,000. Grand total $15,700. At the bottom, Patricia had typed, "We believe this is more than fair. Payment plan can be discussed." I sat frozen, staring at the screen until Thea leaned over my shoulder. She let out a sharp laugh. They actually itemized emotional blackmail. I for Patterson the email to Charlotte. Her reply, "Olivia, please tell me you're going to frame this." But beneath my friend's humor, I felt the chill of something darker. This wasn't a breakup anymore. It was a siege. Victor's posts online had grown louder, painting himself as a victim of emotional abuse. But something strange happened. His smear campaign backfired. People who knew him, really knew him, started messaging me privately. A college roommate. He burned through 3 therapists until he found one who agreed with him, an ex-girlfriend. He told everyone I was toxic too. Same pattern. Even a former friend. He owes me $800. When I asked for it back, suddenly I was triggering his trauma. Piece by piece, the picture sharpened. Victor wasn't unraveling, he was performing, and he'd been doing it for years. Then Thea's girlfriend, who worked at the same wellness center as Victor, overheard a phone call that made my blood run cold. She told me later, whispering like we were sharing state secrets, I heard him on the phone with someone. He said, "No, I can't move back home. It's embarrassing. Maybe if I tell Olivia I'm sick, she'll come back." It worked for Janelle. I sat there, stunned wine glass trembling in my hand. He was plotting, not grieving. His next move wasn't to heal, it was to bait me with lies. That night, I lay awake in Thea's spare room, the glow of my phone screen painting the ceiling. For the first time, I wasn't just dreading what Victor might do. I was imagining all the ways he could twist reality next. Because people like Victor didn't crumble when abandoned. They adapted. They strategized. They spun webs. And I was still caught inside it. It didn't take long for Victor's empire of lies to crack. The first blow landed Monday morning when I received a polite but curt email from a supervisor at Dr. Whitmore's clinic. They were investigating a complaint of inappropriate contact. Could I confirm whether Dr. Whitmore had reached out to me directly regarding a patient? I sent the voicemail file, my hand steady for once. The supervisor thanked me. Her tone carried both professionalism and fury, like someone who already knew their colleague had crossed an unforgivable line. By Wednesday, word spread. Dr. Whitmore's license had been suspended pending review. Victor's favorite weapon had been stripped from his arsenal. The second blow came from his work. The wellness center where he coached part-time learned of Patricia's scene at my office, his online smear campaigns, and the bizarre Facebook posts. By Friday, Victor was no longer a good fit. The third blow arrived almost comically. He advertised for a roommate to help cover rent, seeking mindful, conscious individual to share sacred space. Must honor healing journey, no toxic energy. Her name was Melody. She lasted 5 days. On the 6th, she messaged me through Instagram. "Hi, this is strange, but did you used to date Victor? He says you were toxic. I just need to know if I'm crazy." We met for coffee. Her stories spilled out house meetings about her energy-forbidden foods, extra charges for emotional labor, and then the kicker, Victor told the landlord I would still be handling rent. When the check never arrived, the landlord called me still listed as an emergency contact. I clarified calmly, his voice chilled. Within a week, eviction proceedings began. By month's end, Victor was back where he swore he'd never return Patricia's spare room. As for Patricia, she didn't stop. Her emails kept coming, monthly itemized demands framed as settlement proposals. I stopped opening them. My lawyer friend said, save them, but otherwise, let her waste her time. Thea and I sat at a cafe one afternoon, watching sunlight slant across chipped wooden tables. For the first time in months, I felt my shoulders lower. Air filled my lungs without weight. "You look like yourself again," Thea said, stirring her tea. "Do I?" "Yeah. Lighter. Like you put down a suitcase you didn't realize you'd been carrying." I smiled, the kind that reached my eyes. She was right. Victor, of course, didn't disappear quietly. The final twist came on a Wednesday morning. A notification blinked on my phone, LinkedIn, of all places. A message from Victor. I've been doing deep work. I realize I projected my issues onto you. I'd like to meet, apologize properly, and maybe discuss reconciliation. I stared at the screen, stunned at his audacity. After everything, smear campaigns, workplace sabotage, financial blackmail, lies. He thought an apology could reset the board. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because I finally understood something Victor never would. Some people don't want healing. They want someone to blame. And I had stopped playing that role the day I walked out. As I closed the app, I whispered to myself, almost like a vow. Sometimes the quietest revenge is simply refusing to play the part they cast you in. And just like that, finally, fully, I was free.